Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, once again to the Chelsea Roar, the Chelsea podcast by the fans for you, the fans. As always, I am your host, Ian Kelly. Do make sure that you smash the like button, you smash the bell notification, and you subscribe to the channel. It's 3 really easy steps, and all it involves is click, click, click. And we would really appreciate it, because if you want authentic football discussion about Chelsea Football Club and everything in and around the club, you are at the right place. If it's your first time, welcome. If you are an existing subscriber and watch all of our shows, thank you. That's all I can say about that. Today we're going to do a Liverpool and Chelsea preview with my right hand man on many podcasts, and of course friend of the show, a man you've seen many times on the last Viali tribute show as well, your friend and mine, the host of the Great Upper Tier, which you can also find on YouTube. So be sure to go and give that fantastic show a follow. Amazing content on it, like the Monday mashup. They've got the Thursday tiers, the Thursday tier talk, isn't it? Tier talk, yeah. And then of course you've got the Shankly sessions. I don't know whether any of you Chelsea fans want to go and watch that, but guess what? If you're a football fan, it's just good to watch football content, full stop, and support smaller accounts and growing channels. You know what I mean? Forget about the big boys who just literally, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this boy, but his name is Johnny Minerals on the Chelsea side. You probably heard of him, or you've probably seen him pop up. He's a proper geezer, as he calls them, brown envelope accounts. So not going to mention any names or anything. But yeah, Noel, welcome to the show. This is actually this is fun, because this is probably our first time doing a preview. It is our first time actually doing a preview of Liverpool Chelsea on the Chelsea Roar. And what's interesting about this one is that we're so alike in many ways at this moment in time that it's not even funny. So I suppose just to give people a heads up, do the groundwork. We're playing away, obviously, at Anfield this Saturday, 21st of January at 12:30. Two teams, it's fair to say, out of form and injury laden. This is the epitome, in my opinion, of a 6-pointer. Liverpool sit in 9th place and Chelsea in 10th, both level on points with 28, with Liverpool with a goal difference of 8. But that matters not really on Saturday, because it's all about 3 points. Neither team needs a draw on this one. This is why we call it a 6-pointer. I suppose we're going to go through the 2 injury lists as well, because we really are the epitome of injury FC, both of us at the moment. Probably us a little bit more than you, but at the same time, for you guys, it's key players as well. More so in terms of the numbers used, in terms of impact players.
We're not far off your number wise either, to be honest.
Number wise either.
We're pretty full up there in the AR room up at Anfield, yeah.
Well, first of all, now that we've got the intro out of the way, welcome to the show. Big game.
Huge.
I suppose from your side, I would implore people to go back and look at the last episode of the Shankly sessions. If you just want to watch a video from a fan with pure emotion after a game, and a fan that doesn't go hiding under a rock after the Brighton defeat 3-0. Sorry, I had to mention the score. You know, it's
common knowledge. It's common knowledge.
It is what it is. But just pure raw emotion, and calling the team out for what it is, calling the ownership out for what it is, calling the manager out for what I suppose a lot of Liverpool fans consider as nonsense. Really, to be fair, I think that's probably the right word. We're looking at 2 managers as well in the build up of this that are under fire, both Potter and Klopp, probably in different ways, but under fire in terms of from a critical point of view from both the media and the fan base, and 9 out of 10 times actually 10 out of 10 times the media really doesn't matter, but the media do really set set the tone for how fans react, especially in this crazy world of social media. So you're looking at Klopp. He's facing mainly fan fury. Um, some of the media, to be fair, are giving him shit, especially on the Talk Sports side. And then you've got a Chelsea fan base divided. Um, it's Twitter versus reality, really, with the Chelsea fan base. Um, the match going fans know what's up. The Twitter fans really having a Scooby Doo. Um, and we've got a situation here where the board is shown that they're going to back Potter. They basically said it without saying it, and they're trying to get rid of this player power thing. So there's really a lot to dive into today. But I think the best place now that we could start is let's look at the injury list. So you being the guest, why don't you go through Liverpool's injury? What we did, we compiled a little thing um, today where you would look at Liverpool's injuries and look at the actual injury and the return date or the prospective return date. And I done the same with the Chelsea injury list. So
Yeah, well, the dates are kind of quite fluid at the moment and stuff like that. But the impact of the players that we've lost, I mean, obviously Luis Diaz is out, not expected to be back till March. Came back during the World Cup, was brought out to Dubai, and they thought everything was all good, and re-injured himself, and they thought he might be able to avoid surgery, but he couldn't, and came back off that tour injured, and he's out now until sideline till March, no definitive date, but
and
they're
what's the
talking
injury?
March. The injury was it's
Was
a
it a
knee
ham?
issue. No,
Knee.
knee issue. Knee issue. And we've been having a few of them. Van Dijk is out also as well. He has a muscle complaint. They haven't divulged really any more detail than that. Um,
His vagina
he
hurts from being done so many times. I'm sorry.
maybe that's the case. But he's expected back. I think they were talking a time frame of about 4, 5, 6 weeks or something like that. So he may be back in time for the Real Madrid fixtures.
Which is good timing for you guys, I suppose. Obviously,
Yeah, and it's kind of like that centre back position there and stuff like that. We are lucky enough insofar as touch wood. We do have Konate in there, we have Matip, we have Joe Gomez, we have Nat Phillips. There's a reasonable amount of cover there. Some would say maybe not at the Van Dijk level, but obviously there's cover there. So it's not a huge worry. Obviously, we'd like Virgil being in the team and stuff like that.
yeah.
Jota also was out. He's sidelined, but he's back doing some training. I heard from yesterday, but they reckon he won't be ready to go match wise until early February. So we should have him back in time for the Real games and stuff like that. So it'll be good to see Diogo go back again. So it's a weird one because we've lost guys in that key left hand position up front.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of flexing around that, Obviously we seen Darwin go off. He was injured as well, picked up an injury, and he's been out for a couple of games. But they reckon he might be back for Saturday. Apparently he's back in training. So that would be good. They didn't want to risk him last night, obviously in the FA Cup game against Wolves. Arthur Mello is still out. I don't know what the story is with him. I know I think it's a knee injury as far as I know, but I'm not too sure. It's definitely a muscle one anyway. I don't have a time frame on him coming back at the moment. He's kind of been the
He's been
hologram this
out.
year, really.
Yeah, he's been out quite a while.
Yeah, well, we kind of, we went in, we did a loan deal for a guy who has an injury history and also hadn't played any football since May. So in terms of it was a trigger reactory type of loan deal signing that realistically, if we'd better planning at the club and stuff like that, it shouldn't really happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
He has no place really being there at the moment, James Milner came back last night, put in a stellar captain's performance against Wolves. He had been out with an injury. Roberto Firmino is close to coming back, I believe, about a week or two away. Be good to have Bobby back as well. And I think that's about it. I don't think there's anyone else at the moment. I think everyone else is back. Curtis Jones is back. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's everyone.
Right. So
quite a list.
It is quite a list. Now I'm going to give you quite a bigger list, but we're not particularly in the forward line. It's quite all over the shop, to be fair, with ours. Now the good news is today Chelsea put up pictures of Reece James and Ben Chilwell back in training, which is very interesting. I still personally think it's probably a little bit too soon to be throwing them into a Liverpool game, regardless of how big of the game it is, you don't want to really rock the apple cart on these two at the moment, because we need them back and back for the long haul, not just for a game. N'Golo Kante was back on the pitch today as well, which is good to see. I'm sure that's good for football fans in general. For the neutral, people want to see N'Golo Kante play, so that's good. But I wrote down here Raheem Sterling hamstring injury, and what I'm going to do here on this one, there's a recurring issue here with Chelsea at the moment, and they're all very, very similar issues, which is why questions, I think, are being asked from the board, in the medical department, and I'm sure within the fitness regime department as well. Raheem Sterling hamstring injury, no return date yet. I have a feeling that's probably going to be a long one. You'd probably be looking around March or so. And at Raheem Sterling's age, if the hammies start to go, then it's quite the issue, because he's not really offering much else at the minute. I'm still not giving up on him. I'm just saying,
I suppose, especially because of the way he plays as well. He plays in a kind of a fast twitch style, where he can be quite quiet and then suddenly explode.
The burst of pace,
and that burst of pace and that explosion in the way that he plays can often trigger, especially in the hamstring area and stuff like that. So,
and he's a unique runner, isn't he? Like, he runs in a certain way. Like, that's, I know he's gotten slagged about it before, because he kind of runs like a T-Rex.
Unorthodox.
But effective when it's
oh yeah, absolutely.
Biscuit legs himself, Christian Pulisic, knee injury unknown. I mean, he's literally a walking injury, that guy.
Shame.
It is a shame. I don't think he has the head for it. I don't think he's got the body for it, which is strange, because he's a stocky enough little fella. I say little fella, he's the same height as me, but you know what I mean. He's a shorter player within the big man game, I suppose, of recent years.
How much with him do you reckon is it mental? I'm not saying mental as in he's not injured, but I mean mental as when he's on the pitch, is he playing with a fear of picking up injury and it's in his head and stuff like that?
I think so. I think that's why I also think the same with Loftus-Cheek and Chalobah. I think that's been their biggest downfall. I think Chalobah got that big injury. You know, he's a young lad that we wanted to see driving at players like he did in the youth teams, and when he got that bad injury, he's not been the same since. I was looking at his numbers with Leverkusen. I know a lot of Chelsea fans were banging on about him. It's okay, but is it coming into start the season next year, or is it, going from
I often wonder, when you get those boys back fit, would a course of hypnotherapy or something like that, fix a lot of some of that fears? Because you know yourself, sometimes a lot of the injuries you pick up is when you pull out of tackles or half go in or stuff like that. That's when you injure yourself the worst. And a lot of that can be a mental thing from previous injuries and being hurt and stuff like that.
It's interesting that you say that. I listened to there's a podcast called Psycho Schizo Espresso, and it's believe it or not, it's with Bruce Dickinson, the singer of Iron Maiden, and the guy that he does it with is he's a psychologist, and they actually had a sports physio on, a guy that you probably know his name, the guy that worked with Klopp very, very closely when, what was his name? Good Lord, played with Chelsea and then went to Liverpool. The striker, what was his name? Injury laden all the time. Black guy, English striker. Good Lord.
Played with Chelsea and then went to Liverpool.
Yeah, started off with City. Come on, why are both of us not getting this?
Jeez, I'm lost.
Sturridge.
Daniel Sturridge, yeah.
Sturridge. He worked closely with Sturridge, and he was saying, he actually said it on the podcast, 90% of his injuries were in his head. But, you know what I mean? It was because psychologically they're so traumatic that they're almost waiting for the next one to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's
Klopp, like Klopp actually called him on it back in the day.
He did, and that's exactly what he said. So this guy said, "Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead."
He said that a lot of the injuries that Sturridge was picking up, they were more knocks than injuries, but because of his mental space in terms of injuries, he assumed that a knock was an injury, and that he had to figure out and learn how to manage pain, because every player in a match gets some sort of a knock. but a knock is not necessarily an injury. And Klopp, he didn't call him out on it, but he made it
No,
very
no,
clear
he
that
didn't.
Daniel
He
Sturridge
didn't.
needed to figure out how to manage his pain and
How to
understand
overcome it.
the
And that's
science of his
exactly
body.
so you've actually hit the nail on the head. The doctor that they had on was a pain doctor. So he was talking
Yeah,
about the psychology of pain, how much of it, like if we look at, we're big pro wrestling fans, we look at someone like, say, a Mick Foley, who, and a lot of people will know who we're talking about here. We look at a lot of those guys and they're throwing themselves off, a Hell in a Cell or blah, blah, blah. And they've a pain threshold to beat the band. And then it catches up with you later in life, you
yeah,
get it. Whereas a lot of these young guys, they don't know how to overcome that, serious injury
yeah,
and feel that they can bounce back. And I think Pulisic is in that category for sure.
mm,
I wish him the best. I just don't see his future at Chelsea. It's kind of like one of those things. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. But
yeah.
he is biscuit legs, to be honest with you. Like, and it's a
Yeah, I
shame.
think I think now to be a professional footballer in the Premier League, I think you have to be playing. You have to be available to play, I should say. Somewhere between 35 and 45 games a season, depending on the Premier League and the other domestic cups in
Yeah,
Europe and all that.
hundred
And
percent.
I'm not saying necessarily play that amount of games, but be available to
Yeah.
play.
So his
And I think that's the real problem there.
It is, and like his return date is unknown as well. So for all we know, he could be out for the rest of the season. And I think it's time that we pull the plug on him in the summer now and let him go to a Juve or, I know Juve are interested in him. There might be a way where we can work a package in there to get Zakaria on a full time basis. I know that there's an agreement there for 25 million, so maybe you could knock the 25 million off and do a deal there somewhere. The Americans, Todd Bowley likes to do these
Yeah.
extraordinarily different type
Yeah.
of
I
American
suppose
deals.
the difficulty for a player like that is finding a home from, with the history.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, it's not sure whether Juventus will want to take that on either.
well, I think the Italians might. I don't think he's cut out for the Premier League. I think he needs to be in a
Mm,
bit of a softer league, to be honest with you.
yeah,
And as I said, it's not a knock on the kid. I wish him the best, but it's definitely, I think his time is up. Um,
and it's a shame because he's a fabulous
oh,
footballer.
all the
He
potential in the
he
world.
he could be an outstanding footballer if he could just stay fit. And look, we say that about so many players. And look, this year hasn't helped it either with the World Cup and stuff like that. I don't know how many times I've spoke to Darren on our podcast that a lot of the problems that teams are having at the moment is because of the congestion of the amount of games, 2 to 3 games
Yeah,
every week, no rest. Bringing teams off for tours when they should be resting up during the World Cup and all, and then players playing heavily in the World Cup, getting into the latter stages, and then only having a couple of weeks off and back at it again and stuff like that, and no winter break in the Premier League and
yeah.
so forth and so forth. And I know a lot of people will turn around and go, Kloppy's always barking on about this player welfare and stuff like that. But it's only now we understand it's coming home to roost. So a lot of what he said, even though sometimes the way he says it can be a little bit irritating to people, but he's spot on in what he's saying about player welfare and stuff like that. And we can see it because look at this year. It's an unbelievable volume of injuries across the board and stuff like that. And especially if you look at Chelsea and Liverpool, if we took our 2 injury rooms, we could put a team together that could challenge for the Premier League.
Well, look at the difference. Look at the difference with the likes of United and Arsenal now, who have suddenly found their voice again, which is hilarious
Yeah.
after 10 years in the shadows. Especially the Arsenal fans, they're just comical. We'll talk about conspiracy theories later with Arsenal fans, but my God, they must literally be stuffed from all the egg that they've been eating dripping off their face. Absolute morons. And then United, of course, because neither of them are playing Champions League. But shout out to the Arsenal fans at the Tottenham game the other day saying we're going to win the Champions League. Don't know whether you got the memo that you're not actually in it. But there you go. Um, it is what it is. But the point I'm making is very, very true. You look at Liverpool, Chelsea, City have had a couple of injuries as well, in fairness, but they've paid
Yeah.
so much over the course of years that they have such a squad there that they can bring player B
See,
in.
we're all guilty as well of one thing. We're all guilty of I would say misguided loyalty as well in
Yeah,
terms of and letting players roll out their contracts and stay beyond their welcome, let's say, for lack of a better sign and stuff like that. And you can see with us, it comes home to roost now. You've got an aging squad. You haven't replaced them. You haven't got a backup plan. And now you're going to have to spend serious money and we've owners now who don't have an appetite for it and all that kind of stuff, looking for investment now. You guys have just gone through a new ownership, and you know you've similar things there. Maybe Aspilicueta stayed too long, should have been moved on. Jorginho, maybe, who's been looking for a move for the last 2 years, say, or 3 transfer windows, hasn't moved yet. Yeah, and various other things. There's talk of N'Golo Kante might have wanted to move on and all this kind of thing. And I think for both clubs, I think what we did was there was misplaced loyalty at times. And for us, it's the same. You look at giving new contracts out. Look, all these players to me are heroes. It's nothing against these players.
No,
Father time comes for everyone
no.
in every line of sport and stuff like that. But giving James Milner a new contract, and I love James Milner. He was brilliant last night as our captain and all, but an extended contract and stuff like that. And what happens is, if you don't move those players on or give them an ambassador role or a coaching role or whatever it is, what happens is you're clogging up the system. And then other players don't get the chance to either come through from your academy or bringing in fresh blood to go in there as a challenge. And what happened is, a lot of these guys, they've basically had their positions to themselves. You look at Mo Salah there at the moment, who hasn't really performed. I know his stats are okay, but to the level of Mo Salah's expectation, since the AFCON, which is over a year now at this stage. I think it was around this time last year the AFCON was on or something like that in the January period. And it's been nearly a year since he's really performed at a really, really high level. And a lot of that is the fact that there's no competition there. He got his new contract. He's the first name on the team sheet. He knows he's going to be playing against Chelsea on Saturday, and he hasn't really got competition there to drive him on and stuff like that. And in that case, he's starting to ghost through games. He's become a little bit lazy. His play has become a little bit sloppy. And I know some of it is in relation to the confidence of the team is down. A lot of players on the team aren't playing to any potential at all. And a lot of it is to do as well. There's a lot going on off the pitch as well with the ownership and certain bids coming in from Qatar and all this kind of stuff,
Well,
which I'm
we're
sure is
gonna
detracting to
don't go
players.
too far ahead, because we're gonna actually do that at
Yeah,
the end, because I'm interested, because you're in
yeah,
a similar position.
mm,
Yeah, not to us, in fairness, where he got
mm,
sanctioned, but in terms of a potential new ownership and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I'm gonna go through the rest of the injuries. Ben Chilwell hamstring. His return date was the 3rd of February, for the Fulham
yeah,
game at home, where we
mm.
smacked them, and get revenge. The noisy neighbours all of a sudden found their horn.
Doing
Uh,
a great job though, playing great football under
they
Marco
are,
Silva. In
they are, and
fairness,
they were robbed. To be honest with you, against Newcastle, it was.
yeah,
I
that
don't.
penalty,
It's
penalty
just
is
it's just
crazy,
baffling, man.
madness.
Absolutely baffling. But
Yeah,
we'll talk about Newcastle later as well, because I see a slide here
mm,
and I see a way back in for Liverpool and Chelsea. To be honest with you, because we're still
yeah,
pretty much halfway through the season.
mm,
Um, Ben Chilwell back in training today. I don't expect to see him against Liverpool, but good to see him back and hopefully get him back against Fulham. N'Golo Kante hamstring. His return was set for March the 4th against the Leeds game. In the Leeds game, should I say? So it'd be good to see him back. That's a huge return for us if we can get him fit just for the tail end of the season.
yeah,
Wesley Fofana also expected for Fulham, back in training as well. That was another knee injury. So we've
mm,
seen Sterling hamstring, Pulisic knee, Reece James knee, Ben Chilwell hamstring, N'Golo Kante hamstring, Wesley Fofana knee. You see where I'm going with this?
mm,
Armando Broja probably not expected to be even fit for the start of next season.
yeah.
Really
Shame.
bad knee injury. It was
Yeah.
really, really big shame for him. I don't know whether he needs a loan now to get his momentum back, because with Nkunku and all coming back in, and potential of Joe Felix and all signing on a permanent, it's
I suppose with him, you see a situation where, like, he just gives you, depending on what his own thoughts are, he gives you a great option from the bench. You know what I mean? He gives you something different. If you're struggling in a game to break a team down or something like that,
direct.
you can put him up there. He's a big man. He goes direct and he'll throw himself into the mix.
Yeah,
Quite similar to what we used to do with Divock Origi at times.
yeah,
When
yeah.
Divock was at his peak coming in like that and stuff like that. So a great option to have there and stuff like that. And again, if your thoughts are that you're going to get back into the top four and back into the Champions League and stuff like that, you have a colossal amount of games in a season when you think about it, between Carabao Cup, FA Cup,
Yeah.
and we generally, as two clubs, we generally do well and go decent into the cups. Last year we both went to the very end of both of them. us playing every single minute of every single game that was available to us last
Yeah,
season. I think it
exactly.
was something like 75 in the end games or something
Yeah,
crazy like
it's
that.
mental. Like.
And and not only that, extra time and penalties and everything else we went through in those cups and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
we did. We did.
And there was nothing to really separate us, you know. So, but it's yeah, I don't know. I think when you look at squads now, clearly the squads aren't big enough. But again, when you look at the money that's being spent and the cost of players and all this kind of stuff, how big a squad can you afford to have? And then you got all the homegrown stuff and financial fair play and the new rules coming in relation to that and stuff like that. It
Mm.
depends how far you can push it. You tend to do kind of a better job at producing players, especially going out on your loan book and stuff like that, than we certainly do. And you generally have a sprinkling that generally comes through, or you can generate nice money from.
Yeah,
Whereas you
I mean that's it.
generally
Like,
don't hear us selling big players for decent money out of our academy.
well, we're going to talk about that later as well with the whole media run here on Chelsea and their finances and how we can spend 500 million in one season. Considering over the last 4 years or 5 years, we've literally generated nearly 700 million on player sales alone. Um, that might answer a lot of people's questions. So, but yeah, the last three, Mendy returned date unknown. Finger, it must be a broken finger. I'm not too sure, or else he's just afraid of. I mean, he's afraid of saving shots anyway now at the moment. So, I
Good old days to strap the finger up, put the gloves on, and get back
yeah,
out there, huh?
out the gap, Mendy, out the gap. I'm Kepa in all day long, and whatever new keeper we get, I'm Kepa all day long. Fantastic performance again, Chris. The other day.
Just on the goalkeeping side of things for Chelsea, are you is Kepa going to be number one, or are you looking for a number one keeper with
No,
Kepa
I
potentially as your number
I
two?
think we've more pressing issues, to be honest with you. We've the midfield issue to sort out. We've the right back situation to sort out, and I think we need two midfielders. We need like two class midfielders, very
Mm,
similar to yourselves.
yeah.
Um, I'm happy with Kepa. I'd be happy for Mendy to go. The fan base is a bit divided on this, but a lot of people are starting to think that because of Kepa's attitude during the whole time that Mendy was number one and he bided his time. I know he made a couple of bloopers over the last couple of games, but against Palace at the weekend he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's the mentality of the boy that I really like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all make
Yeah.
mistakes. Players are going to make mistakes. De
Mm.
Gea has been considered the best goalkeeper in the Premier League until Alisson came in. He's made many little bloopers like that, and I think Kepa's kind of in that vein. He's more of an athletic type keeper where
Mm.
his agility is
Well,
his key
the problem
strength.
as well, when you're a keeper at a big club and you do make a mistake, it's highlighted even more. You
Of
seen it with
course,
Allison at Anfield when he kicked the ball out to the Wolves player and the Wolves player kicked it into the back of the net,
yeah,
and everyone was going, "What the hell was that?"
it's going to
So, but
happen
because you're at
eventually when you
Liverpool
play that way.
and there's an expectation, it's
Yeah,
magnified even more. Because if that was if that was the Bravka at say Newcastle, it'd be forgotten about in a few days.
of
But
course.
because when you're a big club and you're at that level and there's a high expectation, that you're world number one or two in terms
Well,
of
it
how
doesn't
good you are
help.
and stuff.
It doesn't help when you've got
Mm,
clowns like Gary Lineker calling him like a penny shop Emmy Martinez and stuff like that, and you're like, well,
mm,
who's Emmy Martinez playing for, pal? Yeah, he won the World Cup, but look at his look at his record at Villa on the regular season. Do you know what I mean? Don't
mm.
these pundits don't help players either. They're very
They
reactionary.
throw that stuff out for a reason. That's
They
all I'm
do,
telling you.
they do, of course.
They don't mean a fraction of what they put
And
out.
it's agenda driven as well. They're told who to support, who to not. But yeah, Zachariah now he's out with a toe injury, and he's been absolutely vital
Shame
for
he
us,
was flying for you. He was flying
flying
for you.
for us. And I do predict that we'll probably sign him on a permanent next year. Great to have. I'm not saying he'd be a starter next year, but why not sign the boy up? You know what I mean? If you're getting him for 20-25 million, that's a steal, especially as a
Mm,
squad player. If you're potentially letting the likes of Jorginho go and Loftus Cheek and um,
mm,
Conor Gallagher, I don't know whether he's going to be there next year if he wants regular first team football or not.
mm,
Is he going to be happy to be a squad player? And then obviously Joe Felix, no injury. He's back on February 11th against the Irons, West Ham. So
mm.
the Hammers, should I say? I said the Irons. That's Iron Maiden and West Ham are very close together. So a lot of listeners will know what I meant by that. So yeah, look, that's the injury list. Before we get into the meat and gravy of it all, a couple of things I wanted to add. Again, this has been fantastic. The this Mudryk thing has been so full of lies from the media that it's actually baffling to me. Absolutely baffling. But the Athletic and one the great David Ornstein, and between him and Fabrizio Romano, they've done a lot to tell the truth on what's actually gone on with this deal. Um, Instead of the bullshit narrative that Sky have. Sky's experts are hilarious, aren't they? They're the lads you've never seen, and they're telling you about expertise in football, and you're like, who the fuck is that guy? Where's Conor McGregor when Sky Sports are talking shit? You absolutely need him.
Mm.
But the Mudryk deal has come out that Chelsea only paid 62 million for the player, pounds, that is.
Mm.
With add-ons bringing it up to 88 million, which include winning the Champions League and the Premier League.
Yeah,
So
a nice touch from Shakhtar as well with the donation to the
to
Ukrainian
Ukraine,
soldiers'
yeah,
families and
yeah.
stuff like that as well. Nice touch
So
as
now
well.
we're on both sides of the war. We started Chelsea Football Club started the war in Russia, and now they're helping it. So I mean, that's what you call balance. You know what I mean? Fair play to Chelsea for admitting.
Like paying war reparations,
Yeah,
is it?
exactly. Fair play to Chelsea for admitting that they were wrong for invading Ukraine. As a football club, terrible.
Yeah.
You can just imagine JT leading the charge, can't you?
Mm.
So it's 62 million plus add-ons, similar to the way a lot of people went with the Darwin thing at the start of the season. They look at the whole figure and go, that's the price, just to sensationalize it. Um, but yeah, it's been found out, and also, which is fantastic, because Arsenal fans are having meltdowns, thinking that there's some sort of conspiracy theory here, that he was held to ransom and he was told to go here, and Roman Abramovich had ties with the former Shakhtar owner, and he was made go there. Arsenal fans just cannot take a loss, and the funny thing is, you would think after 10 years of losing, you'd be used to it by now. Good Lord, you aren't even going to win the Premier League. Imagine United are going to beat you at the weekend and then potentially win the Premier League ahead of you. I, for one, as a Chelsea fan, know we can't win the league. I'm going to say it right now. I hope Man United win the league ahead of Arsenal.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm
Well,
not sharing that
well,
with
I
you.
am. I
I'm
am.
not sharing that with
Arteta
you.
is a petty little pompous prick, and he deserves everything he gets. So, but yeah, it also turned out that the Arsenal and Chelsea offered the same terms. It was the same deal. So it wasn't this Sky and all the media were running this narrative that Chelsea came in and offered this amount, much more. Oh, they blew them out of the water. No, they offered the same terms. The difference was the Shakhtar owner felt that Chelsea had more chance of winning the Champions League over the 7-year contract and the Premier League than Arsenal do.
So they
So,
were looking at the add-ons. They were looking at the potential add-ons on the delivery of that basically as well. Yeah.
and he also made a comment as well saying, between you and me, he goes, the project that Chelsea have in line is really, really special with what they're trying to do with the young players and blah, blah, blah. So he's more confident in that. And it's 97 grand a week as well, which is amazing. This 170 grand a week, he's literally on less money than Hudson Odoi and Loftus Cheek. Let that sink in.
Yeah. I'd say probably. I'd say.
Mikhailo
Oh,
Mudryk is on
yeah.
less money than Ruben Loftus Cheek and Callum Hudson Odoi, who's on loan. And that, my friends, is a fact. So, what do they like to say when you come up with a conspiracy theory? Debunked.
Mm.
Go ahead.
I'd say 97 is the basic, but I'm sure there's performance related
Oh,
stuff
listen,
there
it's
and
going to go up.
all that
He's
kind of stuff.
Todd Bowley is. I'm actually going to be doing a
Mm.
show with an Arsenal fan. Funny enough, next week he'll probably watch this and he'll think twice about it, but he knows it's banter. He made a great point. He's a huge baseball fan, and he put up a fantastic thread today, which I shared, and talked about the whole idea of long-term contracts and how it helps with the financial fair play, etc., etc., and how it works in US sports. The problem with traditionalist Premier League fans and English media is they don't like someone coming in and changing things around. No, there's no law, and I think you probably heard Simon Jordan say it too. There's no law to say that it has to be a 3 or 4 or 5 year contract.
No,
Nothing.
I think the Mudryk one's 8, isn't it?
It's 8.5 year
8
contract.
years, 8 year and a
Now,
half years. Yeah.
they're saying it's 50-50 in terms of what if it doesn't work out, what if not. But what it does is it puts the power in the club's hand and takes player power away. which is essentially what I've been calling for how long, Noel, in terms of how the US sports do it. You've got a contract, it's ironclad. If you want to get out of it, fair enough. But someone's going to have to come to the table with a decent offer. So it works in two different ways. But the fact is, yeah, performance based, as you said, year 2, year 3, your money goes up, and we fulfill, our end of the bargain. As long as you fulfill your end of the bargain, it's fantastic, and I think
The only thing I would say about that, though, the one thing it does help a lot is you're able to amortize the cost of that contract over a much longer period.
yeah.
So instead of, let's say it was 60 million for argument's sake, instead of doing it over 4 years at 15 million a year, you can stretch it out much further to half of that, maybe 7.5 million over 8 years and stuff like that. The only thing I would say against it, though, the one thing I'd be wary of is if the player doesn't work out, or if something happens there, or if there's another change of manager and maybe he's not that guy or whatever it is for him and stuff like that, you're kind of stuck with that player for 8 years. It could be difficult to move him on.
Well, not
Why you have to
really.
see out that contract?
Not really, because as Simon Jordan said, essentially what you're doing is you're not devaluing the player. Because if it doesn't work out when he's on year 2 and he starts getting these ideas in his head, he's down to his last 2 years of his contract, should I say, and he's got these ideas in his head that, like the Jorginho situation now at the moment, where you're going,
Yeah,
right, I kind of want out of here, but like, well, essentially, if you want out, you're going to have to fulfill your end of the bargain here, because you've got X amount of years left on your contract. So you're going to have to perform in order for us to sell you to a potential buyer and show their value. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because we
yeah, but
hold the power.
you can, the flip side of that as well. You can also get players there who might not want to leave Chelsea, who might set down roots in Chelsea and stuff like that, aka family, kids, whatever else it is, and stuff like that. And the problem there is, if it doesn't work out, you could be staring down the barrel of paying that 97 grand for the next 8 years as opposed to the next 4 years.
But essentially, it's
That's where
no.
I'm coming from. And remember, with the new financial fair play, it's a combination of your transfer costs and your wage bill.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
yeah, but
really important as well.
that's the difference. Like what people need to realize, and again, it's media driven, and this is why I'm calling it out here. It's media driven. Todd Bowley is a genius. It's little rats like Gary Neville and all that have come out and labeled him football manager and all this crap that's happened. Not understanding that this man had to take over in a time where there was no director of football, was trying to change the narrative and clean up the mess that Marina and Roman had made. Let's be real. Let's be honest here.
And
Roman,
all your and your previous 3 or 4 managers.
absolutely. Like
You know?
Marina literally bought they stockpiled players for managers at a time and spent X amount of money on them on mental contracts. Like, so this is why the 8 and 7 year deals don't scare me when you're buying players who are 21, 22,
Mm.
because the upside is, and I mean, I'm sure there's language in there that, if there's a career threatening injury or something like that, your contract becomes null and void, because that's what the Americans do anyway. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no,
We
no,
don't
it go through your insurance.
exactly. We
Go through
don't know
your
the language
insurance.
of all that. So
It's not. I wasn't coming mainly from a an injury point of view. But what I'm saying is, if you look like a Jorginho, say for example, who's like spoken heavily about looking out into the market and seeking a transfer potentially over, say, the last 3-4 windows, but he hasn't moved. He's still there. He's still
oh
at
no, but that's
Chelsea.
and that's what I'm saying.
You
But
know
this
what I
is the
mean? And
fault
that's
of the previous board not moving players
yeah.
on. They could have pulled the
Oh
trigger.
no, I'm not parking it at Bowley's. It's not
Yeah,
Bowley's fault at
but this
all.
is what I'm
Here, listen.
saying. The
Yeah, listen,
media's having fun
you're
with.
talking to the converted here. I'd love to have an owner like Todd Bowley who's going out and buying players for Jurgen Klopp like this. Absolutely
And
would
what
love it.
people
So
need
long as
to
I
remember.
mean, I suppose so long as there's a plan and so long as Potter is heavily involved in that process as well, I think
Well,
it's all good. You
Well,
know what I
the
mean?
interesting thing is, and I did hear you the other night now, which is fair enough, and your worry was, is Potter involved in this? It's quite clear when you looked at his right hand man from Brighton is there now. You've Winstanley in from Southampton. You've got Vivel from Leipzig, and the guy from Southampton as well. This is the four now. I mean, quite clear, your man, the guy from Monaco as well. That was the Badia Shilly was him. So it's the media portraying this that Bowley's just looking at players and playing football manager. Bowley wasn't even part of the negotiations for
Mm.
Mikhailo Mudryk. It was
Yeah.
Egbali, who also is a name that is only starting to come into fruition now, who's basically just as
Yeah.
important as Todd Bowley. Like Todd Bowley is not Roman Abramovich now, where he has all the trump cards. This
Mm,
is and another important thing to point out as well, which Simon Jordan, who is the finance man, mentioned. Chelsea are debt free, but
mm,
the earnings that they've made over the last couple of years, they won the Champions League 2 years ago. The money that
mm,
they made from that is absolutely massive. The
mm.
amount, so player sales alone was 600 million, 624 million, I think. So add on to that the the Champions League revenue, the Premier League rights, blah blah blah. 500 million for them coming in on a debt-free club if they're spreading the cost over the course of 10 years is absolutely nothing. The only thing
Yeah.
that they're watching out for is financial fair play. This guy runs DraftKings, for Christ's sakes. Anyone who knows anything about online betting knows that DraftKings is probably the biggest platform on the American side of things anywhere.
Yeah, well,
Like this,
I'm sure he's fully aware of his financials, and I'm sure he's fully aware of how he can bend the
manipulate the
system
market,
without breaking the system, basically, and
manipulate it.
stuff
Yeah,
like that.
basically
And I'm sure he's fully aware of financial fair play and the changes that are kicking in over the next 3 years and all that kind of thing. And
which I
like,
think those changes are a joke. I think financial fair play is a joke. Personally, I've always said it. It is what it
well,
is.
I think the new changes coming in, I think will make things a lot clearer and stuff like that, because there is a bit of ambiguity and stuff like that. But
But
then
will the
it
likes of
depends.
City and all be caught out on it? That's the problem. Because I mean, why is there not investigations done on City, for example? I mean, they don't. It is the empty head for a reason. They don't fill their stadium. They literally have no commercial value in the US whatsoever. Yet they own teams in the US. Like it's still United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and even Celtic, I believe, are still more known in the US than City. So it's like,
It's creative accounting.
of course, it's creative accounting, but
It's
again,
creative
it's
accounting.
illegal, but it's not being looked into. But yeah, yeah, Chelsea tapped up a player back in 2015. So guess what? You got a two a two window transfer ban. Where City are just laughing at everyone. You know what I mean? So hopefully it does come in and it makes it fair. Now the only thing I think with Paris Saint Germain at this point, they've ridden the wave, and I think their commercial value is just so high now because of the players that they have in Mbappe and Messi and Neymar
Yeah,
that
the revenues must be huge.
they like, and they're a worldwide phenomenon. I saw Paris Saint Germain tops over in fucking the States more than I saw in Paris. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they probably do have. I mean,
But
and I'm sure there's,
that's why you pay the massive money for guys like that, because that's
of
the commercial
course,
value that they bring and
of
stuff like that
course.
and all
But
that.
look, I don't want to spend too
Yeah.
long on that. Let's get on to. I just wanted to say that anyway about Mihailo Mudryk. The Arsenal fans thinking that there was a gun put to his head and he wasn't smiling and something seems off. It's quite clear that he was smiling today in training, and looked like he was loving it. So
Look, the thing that
take the
people have to
loss.
the thing that people have to remember as well, if you look at 90% of the links out in the transfer window, and I look at the transfer window every day in terms of the shows we do with Darren and stuff
Of
like that.
course, yeah.
90% of the players out there, there's only a certain pool of world class players that you're trying to attract in and find. And all these scouts are all doing the same thing. There's no doubt that the Liverpool scouts and the Liverpool people that are looking at players are looking at players very similar to Chelsea, very similar to Man United,
Of
very
course.
similar to City and everyone else.
It's not
And
it's
what it
not like
is
Football Manager where you find uncover this gem who
no,
just happened to be playing in.
it's a question of who rocks up and who's willing to put the money down and who's sincere about it and who's just trying to talk about it or wangle a deal or whatever it is. I mean, we've seen it with United over the last few years where they've tried the penny pinch on deals that didn't go through. Then at the back end when they go through, they end up paying 1.5 times the price.
Actually, can we give
We've
you
seen it with
props
a
on this
number of their
channel
players.
live? Actually, let's give you props. You on the last Viali show, because it was a bit of a haze because it was so. You actually predicted that Mudryk would end up at Chelsea. It's just that you're coming back to me.
Yeah, yeah.
You actually
But it's
said
just
that.
yeah, but it like look at the end of the day, if you're dealing with Todd Bowley, you know the wealth that's there, you know the investment that's there in the background of Chelsea. You know, if you look at Arsenal, Arsenal are kind of in a different position where they're going with the plate with more cheese, the cronky all the time, trying to get more money. And obviously Bowley and whoever's involved, that other guy you mentioned that was
Like
involved,
Bali,
they
yeah.
moved quickly for a player who's a really, really good player. And we've mentioned him on a number of podcasts that he's outstanding. And Arsenal, I think were just caught sleeping, and that's it. And I think Chelsea went in there, presented the deal, and said, "Yeah, we'll have some of that and take it." Same as what we did with
Yeah,
Gakpo.
brought him
You
home
just
on a
go in,
private jet.
throw the money down, and you go, "This is the guy that we want." And I think players appreciate that as well, rather than all the talk and all, and put out a tweet that you want to be at this club or a Facebook update you want to be at this club. You just be sincere about it, you know what I mean, and go in there. And it's very shrewd in the way they do it as well, because on the face of it, you could look at Todd Bowley and go, well, every cool player that gets mentioned, he's doing a deal for kind of thing and stuff like that. But on the face of it and stuff like that, Chelsea are going about their transfer business very similar to the way Liverpool does. They're not talking very much about who they want, and suddenly a player is signed. And stuff like that. So you look at the links that are out there and you look at the stuff like that, they're very shortened links. So you could be linked to a player and within 10 days you haven't signed. We could be linked to a player. I didn't even see the Cody Gakpo thing happening at all. So they're getting clever in that way. Whereas if you're going out there, similar to the sort of way United and City and stuff like that do stuff, they go out there and go, oh, we want this player. And then they tend to get a little bit rinsed on the cost of it and stuff like that, because they've thrown their cards into the poker game straight away and shown what they have. And it's just a different way of doing business. They kind of drag their heels and trying to do a better deal, and then when that deal doesn't happen, they panic and they have to throw the money down then in order to make the deal happen.
Well, they kind of learned, didn't he? Bowley seemed to learn over the summer, because we were getting rinsed on. We were linked with every single player, and he was trying to.
Yeah.
So we were linked to this player, it didn't happen. Linked with that player, it didn't happen. And I think Thomas Tuchel as well has to take some responsibility too, because he was talking about a rebuild. And this is something else I want to say to Chelsea fans that are singing his name in the terraces. His idea of a rebuild was to sign a 31-year-old Koulibaly who has absolutely failed so far. And the only reason I'm saying that it's failed so far is because I can't see the upside in that at his age. How is he going to get better next season at 32?
Well, I think
let me finish.
Yeah, go on.
Aubameyang, forget
Well,
about it.
Aubameyang is just one that's a one that's out there in the clouds that should have never happened. That was
You know
just
what I mean?
weird.
And
But
then,
the Koulibaly one I'd go back to. I think you're being a little bit harsh there insofar as at the moment, similar to us, you're getting injuries. You have a fluid back line there. There's a lot of changes. You're not sure from week to week who's going to be your partner. And in those positions there, similar to Liverpool and stuff like that, we built winning teams. You built winning teams on the basis of defences. But if you look at those defences going back to the day, Terry, Carvalho, Liverpool with Honcho and Hippie and stuff like that, you always knew who your dance partner was going to be nearly week in, week out. So you were able to play to that. You knew his strengths. He knew your strengths and
Koulibaly's been
weaknesses.
playing with Thiago Silva for 5 games straight, and he still can't.
He has, but also remember as well, Thiago Silva is at a very different level to most players as well. So,
but it should be
you know
easy
where I'm
playing with
coming
him
from.
then, no?
Well, not necessarily easy, but if you're putting yourself under a certain level of pressure to try and meet that expectation, most defenders in the world fall very short of Thiago Silva's expectation.
Why I'm
But
saying
that doesn't mean that he won't.
But
that doesn't mean that he won't.
Well, will he be given the time? Because when you look at Badiashile,
well, Thiago Silva's 38, isn't he?
Yeah, but when you look at Badiashile the other day, first game, fantastic.
I'm not. Yeah, but I'm not saying. Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Where's the room for Koulibaly? I mean, do you stay on the bench then for your couple of year contracts, or do you go back to Italy? Personally, I'm a big fan of Koulibaly. I just think we bought him 2 to 3 years too late. I'm a massive fan of Koulibaly actually, and I've been defending him. But I'm looking at him now, and I'm going, he doesn't have that for the Premier League at that age. It's again, we're going back to the mental thing. I look at Potter looking now, setting up. He seems to like that 4 at the back rather than the 3 at the back, which I think is long overdue. Badiashile, left-sided defender. The boy Caldwell against Liverpool the other day. Oh my days! Like he's already been told he's coming back next season. He was at the game there against Crystal Palace on Sunday, apparently to sign a new contract or negotiate a new contract. So I'm looking at that, and then you've got the boy Fofana on the right-hand side. You've got Chalobah, who had a fantastic game as well. And then you've got Thiago Silva, who's probably not, there's no probably about it, who's probably going to play another season at Chelsea and then probably finish his career out, somewhere in Brazil, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but again, that other season at Chelsea, again, you're going to have to be careful there as well, because at his age as well, and he has been picking up the odd injury as well. So you have to be careful careful with him as well. He's getting to that age. And you'll have to guide him through that season, and that's when having a Koulibaly is an option. I'm not saying Koulibaly should be your starting 11 or anything like that, but certainly it's a treat to have something as an
Oh,
option like that off your bench or
100%,
something,
100%. I'm
And you got to
definitely.
remember, as I hark back again to the amount of games and stuff like that, you're gonna pick up injuries, you're gonna pick up freak stuff. It just happens.
No, I get
Uh,
that. I get that, and you do have
and
to
you
have
and
your
you need
experience.
that experience and
Yeah,
quality in
yeah.
there to swap it in and
It's
stuff. You
just,
know what I
but the
mean? So,
point I'm making, like, uh, Tuchel, this was Tuchel's idea of a rebuild, and he said we
mm.
don't need any more midfielders. Blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And I
But see,
hope
it's very
I hope
yeah,
he goes to
absolutely.
Tottenham now, actually, so that, and I'm talking to the Chelsea fans
Mm,
now. I
mm,
hope he goes to Tottenham when the
mm,
inevitable happens,
mm,
and I hope you take your fanfare to Tottenham and start supporting Tuchel FC and Tottenham
mm.
FC for all you idiots that haven't been supporting the manager, the gaffer that literally has come into a side injury fucking blasted, has not got his own team yet, and now you're starting to see the pieces coming together, and you're going, "Oh, I like what Potter's doing." Because one very important thing that we have to say is that two conversations happened, and Romano confirmed this, and Ornstein confirmed this. Potter called um, Mudryk personally, and he also called Joe Felix personally. And
Mm.
after those two conversations with Potter, they went, "I like that Chelsea project." Boom. So let's get the agendas out of here. Let's get rid of all the fucking bullshit and actually call it for what it is. The board is going to be backing Potter. He's not going to be sacked. They're building a team in his image with his people around him in terms of the new recruitment
Yeah.
side of things. And there was one thing I watched the other day, and I felt so fucking happy for him. When that goal went in for Havertz, Potter just looked at his mate and he was like, it was like, are they going to
Relief.
give us an offside?
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, this guy,
Relief.
you and Dazzler have been harping on about Graham Potter for a long time. And now because De Zerbi is doing a great job at Brighton, which he fucking is, absolutely fantastic job. Who laid those foundations? Not just
Mm.
Potter, I'm saying as a manager, but like in terms of the whole team. Because remember, it's a team. There's a team on the pitch, there's a team of players, but there's also a team of backroom staff that lay these foundations, that create the building blocks to create a successful
Yeah,
football
well,
club.
it's like any new manager that goes in there. There's a huge weight of expectation both from both our fan bases and stuff like that. And what happens is when it's not going well, it can get very toxic, and there's a lack of understanding. And you've got both teams there. You know, in recent times, we've gotten very used to winning stuff. I'm very aware as a long-time Liverpool fan for 42, 43 years at the stage. I'm well used to not winning stuff. You've had a lot of success at Chelsea as well. I think in the last 20 years, the most successful team or whatever it is,
Yeah,
trophy was. So it's difficult when we both start playing shit.
yeah,
And it's difficult when we lack confidence and, players are aging and there's misplaced loyalty and we're not doing what we should be doing the transfer window and the ass fell out of your club because of the invasion and it had to be sold and new ownership and that took time. And, we're in a situation now as well where we have owners there that are just not willing to take that next step with us. So we're seeking new ownership as well. They're seeking a sale. That's spreading onto the pitch. It's affecting the performance. I don't care what anyone says. Players don't suddenly become bad players. Virgil van Dijk hasn't suddenly become a bad defender. Alisson Becker hasn't suddenly become a bad goalkeeper. These things just happen. These people are human beings. And I think that's what has to be taken into account as well. And I said it, Graham Potter hasn't become a bad manager. What's happened to Graham Potter is he's gone into a pool of players that's being developed in a different guise for different managers and all that kind of stuff. So he's basically taken 4 or 5 jigsaws, thrown all the pieces onto the table, and he's trying to make this jigsaw now from pieces from different puzzles.
yeah.
And it's just not going to work. So he's starting to get things in place of the stuff that he wants. He's going to need to be given the time that he needs. And Graham Potter, mark my words, will lift silverware with Chelsea, no problem in the future. I have no doubt about that at all. I'm a huge Potter fan, regardless of where he plies his trade. And I just think it's really, really important for your own fan base to, figure out you're going through a revolution. The ass fell out of your club. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to incur a lot of pain to get to that success. And sometimes it's short-mindedness as well. People forget what Liverpool and Chelsea had to go through to get back to that success and all the pain that they went through and stuff like that. Chelsea for years, mediocre. Liverpool for how long? Mediocre. Always in the shadow of United and Arsenal, and picking up all the scraps of players that got left over in transfer windows, and the rubbish and the nonsense that we signed and all. And it takes time. And even when Klopp went in there, how long did it take Klopp to get in there, get his feet under the desk, understand the players that he wanted, put his stamp on that team and stuff like that, and then be judged? Um, Potter's only in the door. This is only the start of a revolution. And I tell you one thing, it's a really exciting time for Chelsea fans, because if you see the players that are coming in and you look towards next season and the brand of football you're going to be playing, it's going to be a high quality brand of football as well. And I just hope we can get our ownership done as well and get in some signings and, do what we need to do in terms of the players that have served us well, but maybe their time has come. And that's the only way I can describe it.
Well said. Well said. I concur. You saw me clapping during it. I think everything you said is true. Even with your own players, with Liverpool fans, slighting certain players and they're past it. No way. I mean, we'd kill for an Alison Becker. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, but I mean,
many teams would.
telling someone that a player is past it is not disrespectful. It's a reality check of a situation of what it is. And I know other people come in and go, "Oh, well, you never played football. What would you know? Or you never did this. What would
No,
you
but
know?"
we have an
We,
entitlement to an
no,
opinion
but
on
we
what we
have our
see.
eyes and we
Yeah,
watch football
yeah,
every week, and we
yeah,
we delve deep in. We're passionate about our club, and
yeah.
at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing. There's not a Chelsea fan out there who doesn't want Chelsea to be successful,
No,
play good football, and lift silverware. And it's the same for Liverpool as well. But I think sometimes we need to be a little bit honest. And in the last few weeks, even the last few months, I've been brutally honest about our team. I've been brutally honest about the players, and it's not disrespecting them. It's just calling it for what it is. I've been brutally honest about our gaffer at times where people sing praises and stuff like that, and you know, we- and that's just the way it is, and it shouldn't have happened. And that's it. And I look back. If you look at Klopp's legacy when he potentially goes, will he look back on his legacy of being a success with what he has won so far, or is it a missed opportunity of other stuff that we should have won if we had taken just that extra step at the right time?
I would also say that is something that the new ownership is looking at for us with the
Hmm.
previous ownership. By all accounts, we should be the dominant force in the Premier League with what Abramovich done initially when he came in, but then he pulled the plug a little bit. It's like, okay, we're okay now with what we have, and he kept doing it, and he kept doing it, and then all of a sudden we'd splurge on that one big player, like Torres is a perfect example. You know what I mean? Is that
Yeah.
what we need right now? Do we not need to freshen up our midfield? Do we not need to do this? Do we not need to do that? Um, and I think that's essentially what happened. And City came in, obviously with you know, with the, I suppose the money that they had as well. But they done one thing smarter than all of us, and they put all the pieces in place to make a regen of Barcelona, essentially,
It
but with
starts.
money.
It starts with the manager. Starts with the manager,
Exactly, it
and
all
then it
does.
and then it's taking that manager and taking his characteristics and his philosophy of football and putting those pieces out there onto the pitch for what you want to see and
But
stuff like
also, the
that.
manager also has to have someone at board level that they can liaise with, that
Yeah, well, I mean, it
understands
has
their
to
vision.
filter through him.
And
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
did that. They brought the former
Yeah,
Barcelona director in, and
yeah,
so.
and
But
that
anyway,
and that's
it's not
that's what's happened at border clubs. There hasn't been at times there hasn't been that shared vision that everyone buys into.
exactly.
Lots of people, like if you look especially at Chelsea, you had managers there who had a certain vision. You had people working at a board level who had a certain vision, and sometimes the board level vision overpowered the manager and the on pitch vision, and wrongly so, and they
Case in
weren't singing
point.
off the same hymn sheet. Yeah.
Case in point. Luis Felipe Scolari.
Mm.
Brazilian
Yeah.
manager. Let's bring him in because all Abramovich wanted to see was attractive football, attractive football, attractive football. We had sexy football under Ruud Hulle because it was Ken Bates in there saying, "You're the manager, you're the gaffer, you do what you want. These are the players. If you want that player, I'll try my best to get him. Now your job is this. Blah blah blah." Then you had Marina and people like that who were too powerful. We're like, no, I think I'll actually be the director of football now. And quite clearly, Marina hadn't a clue when it came to the director of football. However, she was fantastic at negotiating. Nobody will ever take that away from her, including me. But what we're seeing now and what's scary for people is that the old regime is gone. That's why the media and the papers are running this. How long will Potter last? How long will Potter last? They cannot come to terms with the fact that this is actually a vision from the new ownership that no, this boy has a 5 year contract and he's going to see it out, or at least see it out until we get everything in place for him. And
Yeah,
then if he fails, fair enough. But
yeah,
anyway, let's get into the
the game.
exciting parts. So we're going to go with predicted lineups first and foremost at Anfield. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, let's get your appetite wet right now, because if you're still with us, and we appreciate it, because this is fun conversation, and it's from two passionate fans who are going through a little bit of a mini turmoil with our clubs at the moment. We say mini
Major
turmoil
turmoil.
because there's clubs going through
Major turmoil.
yeah.
Well, we're going through major turmoil because we've got problems, but we ain't necessarily buying players. You're going
Okay,
through turmoil, but you're bringing players in at
fair
least.
enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So 12:30 kickoff. I mean, sometimes I do love those early kickoffs, but sometimes I hate them because they can make or break your weekend. And someone's weekend is going to be ruined. It's always a battle when it comes to Liverpool and Chelsea. The two, without a shadow of a doubt, I think our two clubs have had the best battles over the last 20 years, for sure. Since the Mourinho, Rafa Benitez days, we've had some major battles. Um, you kind of won up us in the Champions League thing a couple of times. We kind of always got the upper hand in the league games. Um, so this one is, and it really is. I don't think I'm exaggerating here with calling it a 6 pointer now. So predicted lineups, Liverpool. How do you see this going?
Yeah, well, if you look at last night's game, I mean, the manager was being questioned in the press conference about being too loyal or over loyal to players. And certainly he changed that last night. He made 8 changes last night. And the players that came in are the players who have been kind of on the fringe, but they played really well. I mean, the boy Stefan Bietic in midfield now is an absolute revelation. He's going to be a serious baller for us. And I'd like to see him getting more time in more high profile matches. I think if we just go in with the usual, I think if he reverts back, obviously Ben Doak came in as well. Ben Doak came on late on. He's another fabulous player there, getting stuck in and stuff. And then obviously Carvalho was on, and Harvey Elliott getting a great goal. And I think we have to get an understanding that last night was an eye opener for the gaffer in terms of a changing of the guard, maybe, and it was being made very clear, even parking the injuries aside, that it's really time maybe to unleash some of these players, that you can't really hold them back anymore. And the justification for playing other players in the team, notwithstanding our captain Jordan Henderson and stuff like that and all, maybe it's time that those guys become part of a squad and these guys become part of a regular starting 11. And they're the hard choices that have to be made. And it's a difficult one as well when you've had players out there that have served you so well, and players out there that you have been loyal to, and at times have come up trumps for you and stuff like that. But there comes a time when the game passes you by. And we've seen it on many occasions this season where games pass us by and we can't afford it. Um, and I think if either team has any aspirations of getting into the top four, now is the time to pull the trigger on that and, get things going and freshen it up, and that bit of youth in there. And it was refreshing last night even to see the Cantera to do what he does and stuff like that and all, where I think he's been labouring this season because, he's Hendo beside him or Keita beside him or whoever it is. I know Keita was there last night and put in a shift for us and stuff like that, but he sees his future elsewhere. But I think starting lineup, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a reverting back. I'm not sure whether the gaffer would be as
Ventures.
risky, let's say, going into Saturday with the same kind of thing. Although I think some cases he should. He made 8 changes last night. I don't expect him to make that many changes. Probably from the Brighton game, which is concerning. Obviously, going back in goals and stuff like that. And talk today that Kelleher might decide to move on in the window, looking for more regular first team football and stuff like that. I have to say Kelleher is outstanding.
Well, it's good from an Ireland perspective as well. From our point of view, we
Yeah, but
would like to see him get
mm,
more game
yeah,
time.
but I'd like he's so relaxed, so laid back, and so relaxed in his role and stuff like that and all. And he's arguably one of the best number twos in the league for
I
my
hate
money.
him in finals.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. But I think he'll revert back. I think Allison will go in there. I think he'll go with Trent and Robbo either side of the defence. And I think Konate keeps his place. I think he'll probably stick with Joe Gomez. I think Joe Gomez had a good game last night and he probably has to stick with him and reward him for a good performance. My big concern with Joe, as always, is 100% concentration
Yeah,
100% of the
yeah.
time, and that doesn't happen. But sometimes in these bigger games, he was outstanding in earlier in the season against Man City. And maybe in the bigger games, he tends to be more switched on.
Fair.
He also gives you an option if needed as well, because he's also a right back. When Trent does go forward, he's able to provide that bit of cover and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So he'd probably stick with Gomez. I think in the midfield, he'll probably revert back to Fabinho, Thiago, and Elliott. I'd rather see Elliott in a more forward position, pressing Salah for his position. But he'll put him in midfield, which is a bit concerning. Because Elliott in midfield, I don't know whether he has the strength and the physicality for that, especially against the likes of Kovacic and stuff like that. I think that's where he might fall down. He's a very clever player, he's a very skillful player, but he just lacks that physicality at times that you need. That if you're playing in a forward position,
Mm.
your skill and your nous can get you away with that a little bit more with defenders, and referees are more sympathetic to your goal, if you like, and your role and stuff like that. Up front, obviously Salah will be on the right. I'm not sure Nunez will probably go up the middle if he's available, and Gakpo out on the left. But in the midfield would be my concern. Thiago obviously will be in there. Elliot will be in there, and then I wonder, will he stick with Bietic or will he go back to Fabinho? Yeah, I'd like to see him stick with Bietic, but I don't see it happening. And I'm not too sure against Chelsea. We've tried it before. The 4-3-3, I'm not too sure is ideal against Chelsea. Maybe time to try something a little bit different. But again, risky maybe in formation and in tactics, and also risky in player selection and stuff like that. Maybe it might be too much of a stretch at Anfield being a home, but both teams badly need the 3 points in order to kick on and hopefully get a top 4 position, try and get back into that mix and that conversation.
Yeah, interesting because it's interesting as well because as we know with Potter, like he doesn't necessarily stick with the one formation that he starts out with. It tends to move from, like, say, even when he plays three at the back, it morphs into a four at the back when he puts an extra man in midfield at times, whether he's, when we're in transition. So going from phase one to phase two, you can see there's a little bit of a different transition there. Again, it hasn't really worked out a lot. So we're two teams in a similar
Doesn't
situation.
work. That's what screwed us in the Brighton game. In
Yeah,
the Brighton game, we played 3 different formations within one
yeah,
game. And by the end of that game, no player had a clue what their role was on the pitch and what they
exactly.
should be doing. They were
And
all over the place. And I just don't
exactly.
understand it. I understand if you want to make a substitution to change a formation in terms of if you're a goal down or if you're looking after game and trying to protect it and stuff like that. But in terms of switching things around 3 different times in a game,
No,
players just get lost and go, "What the hell do you want me to do
yeah,
here?"
I think you need to stick to your game plan, and I hope that's what Potter does. I think he's gonna go with the 4-3-3 again, or the 4-2-3-1, whatever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't go three at the back with the because it's kind of, we're setting ourselves up to play counter attack football again, which we did against City at times in the league game. It was fine against City because we probably should have won that game. To be fair, in terms of our chances, we just didn't take them. We had kids playing. Carney was absolutely fantastic. Chukwemeka,
Yeah.
hit the post, very unlucky. Different conversation if you're going in, half time in the lead, 1-0 up, and that's just their luck this season. But I do fancy him to go with the same lineup, pretty much that he did against Crystal Palace. I think absolutely it's Kepa in goal. I have a feeling he's going to go with Chalobah at right back again. I thought he was fantastic. He offered much more than what Azpilicueta Dave offers these days. I expect Dave maybe to come on to shore out the game if it's going in his direction at the end. If not, you probably won't see him. So I think we'll see Chalobah at right back again. Once again, I think he's going to go with Thiago Silva and Badiashile. I thought Badiashile was an absolute monster against Crystal Palace. He's 6'5". Dazzler was talking to me. He's watched him a lot. Dazzler loves his French football, by the way. And he said he's going to be an absolute beast. So I fancy.
I said it to you there a few weeks ago as well. He's exactly what you expect in a Chelsea signing.
Exactly.
From a physicality point of view as well. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. It's a toss up between Cucurella and Lewis Hall at the moment. He seems to be going with Lewis Hall, which I think is very admirable. So, Lewis Hall has played the last 4 or 5 games. So, I mean, why not let the kid have a run out again? I mean, he's got pace. He's decent, but I think Cucurella might be the one for this purely because of pace as well. And the fact that he's going to be going up against Mo Salah. So
he brings that bit more aggression, doesn't he?
Yeah.
More aggression.
I think so. Midfield, I'd say you'd be looking at Mount kind of sitting in the hole the way he has been, kind of sitting in the hole and then going out, to the right hand side when need be. I think you'll see probably a combination again of Mason Mount. I think he'll go with Kovacic this time. I know he played Carney. I know he played Chukwuemeka against Palace, who had a great game, by the way. And probably Jorginho, to be fair. Jorginho, he does set the tone. You know what I mean? And when Jorginho's playing at the base of that midfield in a 3-man midfield, he's fine. You know what I mean? Because he's not really... It doesn't have to be press resistant too much when he's got 3. When he's playing in the 2... with the 3 at the back, that's why I said I hope we don't play 3.
Considering we really don't press anymore.
Well, you've that as well.
We play a pressing formation without the press.
And then I expect he'll probably go with Ziyech again, purely because he had a good game against Crystal Palace, and I imagine the ownership are probably thinking more he plays, the more dollars they'll probably get. And then I think it's going to be Koi, and then I think you're definitely going to see the debut of the new boy, Mudryk, which is this is the key battle. So it's Trent against a lad who was literally probably one of the fastest players in the world.
You'll have Joe over that side as well, Joe Gomez as well.
So and that's what really whets my appetite on this one, because Mudryk apparently over 50 yards or something like that is faster than Mbappe. Apparently, like for consistently, whereas Mbappe is quicker on the apparently they're equal on that, but apparently Mudryk, and looking at the highlight packages, he certainly looks like he can run. Just as Celtic fans, so that's going to be a very big battle, isn't it? That right hand side for you guys, left hand side for us, and then on the opposite side, it's whether Mo Salah wants to turn up, which he pretty much does against Chelsea, against Cucurella. So it's both left hand sides of the attack are essentially key points for me.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen a kind of a Mo Salah typical kind of Chelsea goal, isn't it? One of those ones where you cut in from the left across the box and curl it into the far corner.
Yeah, because he does it.
But we haven't.
Against us,
he does it, but we haven't seen it in a long time, and it's interesting as well. I'm right in saying we haven't played each other yet this season, isn't it? Because this is the kind of, is this the cancelled game?
Yeah.
Was this the cancelled game back from when? So we still have to play each other twice. So it'd be interesting,
as well. So
it's interesting. But this will be a good one. But this will be. It's a very hard one to call, isn't it? Because we're both kind of in the.
Well, we're getting into the predictions now. Yeah, you may as well guide us into the predictions. Go on.
Yeah. I'd love to predict we're at Anfield and stuff like that, and the Anfield crowd, which can't be underestimated and stuff like that. And I just think I'd love to be going for a Liverpool win. I think it'll be a tight game. I don't think there'll be a huge amount of goals in it. But I think it's not going to help either of us, because I think it's going to end up being a draw, and that's not me sitting on the fence. I just think both players, we're not really playing the press the way we should. Yous are going to be looking to play the counter, and I think it could potentially cancel each other out. and it could be a feisty affair. But I don't think it would be a classic because I think a lot of players at the moment are out of form. A lot of players are lacking confidence. I'm sure they'll each want to get the win. But I don't think either side has shown enough this season to say, yeah, I'd be confident going in there that we do use, or you'd be confident coming in that you do us. I just think it's one of those ones where I think it'll probably be a draw. Doesn't help either of us.
I'm not
You're going to go with a 4-3 like Newcastle or something like that. Are you something
no,
crazy?
no. No, I'm going. I do think we're going to win. I think we had that extra. This week is the first week where we've not played a midweek fixture as well. I think we've had that
Yeah.
extra week. I think that Mudryk signing, and I think that fantastic. By the way, that fantastic send off to Viali. By the way, at Stamford Bridge was absolutely beautiful. I don't know whether you saw
Yeah,
it on TV at the time. Yeah, it was amazing seeing the old players coming out, Graham Lasso and John Terry.
In fairness, the respect shown to the man from all the Premier League grounds was fantastic.
Everybody,
It's
it's absolutely,
fantastic. I have to say,
and
everyone, they
I
all did a stellar
commend,
job.
yeah, I commend absolutely every club that did, do that. But I just think I don't know, I have a feeling at the moment. I think this Mudryk signing has lifted the spirits a little bit, and it's not just because it's the player that we brought in. It's the fact that we've kind of got one over the Arsenal. We've done this shit. I'm seeing a bit of shithousery from Chelsea again, which is what we're about. I like that. We are a shithousery club purely because we've had to be, because the media fucking hates us and everyone hates us. And we love the taste of salty tears, to be honest with you. And that's genuine. I love it. Like I love when I go into work and people go, "Oh, Chelsea fucking this and Chelsea," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, yeah, it's great, isn't it?" It's like that excites me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't know. I fancy us for the win, but I'm not like, going back to what you said. I'm not gonna be like full on. Oh, I'm gonna die on this hill on this one. Um, I think both teams to score. I fancy a 2-1, and I think we might get it by just I don't know, like by a corner or something. You know what I mean? Just a slip up somewhere on the Liverpool side. I think yes, are confident. Obviously,
Don't be
after
mentioning
winning,
us and don't be mentioning us and slips. That's the last thing I want to hear.
Slippy G. Sorry,
Don't
but
mention that.
but I suppose where I'm coming from though is that it's the team that won during the week isn't the team that's going to be playing. It's going to be primarily the team, as you mentioned, that played against Brighton.
Maybe.
Maybe pretty much, you know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
not. I mean, look, if Klopp goes out and plays all the kids that he played, in I mean, that'd be a ballsy move. And if he's win, then then maybe it is Potter out time. But no, I'm only joking. But no, I fancy us for the odd goal. I really do. I think our backs are against the wall the same way yours are. I get it. We've nothing to lose by this. And I just think
you've everything to lose because that's the
but both
problem, isn't
teams
it?
have something to
The
lose. That's what
problem
I'm
with this,
saying.
there's such a sensitivity to it because a loss here for either team really kind of cans your season
It was
somewhat,
the wrong choice of words. I didn't mean we've nothing to lose, but what I'm saying is we've nothing to lose by actually going trying to win the game, because a draw essentially keeps us the same. Like, either team is gonna have to go and try and win this. Like, and I don't know. Like, I have a feeling Potter is gonna try and tell us to go out and attack a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't think we're gonna sit back and play the counter. I really don't.
Yeah, well, I think if any manager knows how to try and get something out of Anfield and stuff like that, Graham Potter is the man to do it. You know, I mean, his record against Klopp is pretty decent. You know,
it's a strange one. I mean, I wish no ill will on you boys. I wish we were up there fighting it out at the top, which is because, to be honest with you, seeing the Gooners and the Spuds up there that high is kind of, it's really infuriating me a little bit. And I mean, look, Spurs are going to bottle it anyway. We know that. Like, look at them against Arsenal on the weekend. They're just bottle jobs. Arsenal will bottle it eventually. Arsenal won't win the league. Mark my words on this. You've heard it here.
You
Come
think
at
so?
me. Not hope. Not hope.
Who are you thinking for the league? City?
Nope.
United?
Yep.
Really?
I think if United win this
There's
weekend, serious conversations are going to have to be had about how, like, he's got them set in their way. Casemiro, and like I've heard a couple of Chelsea fans say this, it goes to show you when you have a manager that knows what he's doing and he knows that one piece that he needs that's going to make that team tick. Casemiro was their piece.
Yeah, no,
Like,
he's done a
look,
fantastic job.
it's just amazing what one player can do, and if you keep them fit, you're golden. And then you've got the likes of Fred in there who can do a job for you, who's a bit of a Dennis Wise, you know what I mean, who likes fucking upsetting things. I just think with Arsenal's injuries, their squad is a little bit flat. No one really wants to sign for them. Oh, there's the mascot.
That's
There's
one
the
of them.
mascot.
There's one of them.
So yeah, no, personally, I don't know. I think I just have a weird feeling. You know, I could be wrong. I have a weird feeling that I think United are going to win the league. And Dazzler needn't point cashing in on the bet that we done where he said double or nothing, because I'm going to call treble or nothing on the next one. So you can fuck off with that. You think
Yeah.
I'm paying out after him not paying out last year? Forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think I don't know. I just have a feeling like it.
Yeah, no, I think in fairness, I think Ten Hag has gone in. He's done a fabulous job from where
We
they
have to
were,
admit
but
it. Unfortunately,
I just think what happens is I think this season I think they'll come up a little bit short, and I think next season then they'll be that back Man United force to reckon with. I think Arsenal at the moment I think are playing a really good brand of football. United won't be enthused by tonight either. They drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace, so they won't be going into the game. And I
I
believe
didn't
Palace
see the
were
final
both.
result. I take my
Yeah, it was
prediction
1-1.
back. I think City will win it.
Yeah, it was 1-1. It was 1-1. I think City are in a state of flux as well. I think City have their own problems as well. And I think it's one of those weird seasons, isn't it? Like the Leicester season, where there's a lot of teams in flux and in turmoil,
Definitely,
and on
definitely.
rebuilds, and then there's some teams up there kind of challenging, but they're not the final piece yet. And I think Arsenal is like trap six in the dog race, and it's got out of the blocks and it's coming off the third bend, and they've basically 99% of the time this season they've answered the critics and stuff like that. They've only the one loss against United so far this season, so they have been outstanding.
It would be
Some
it
of the
would be
play,
incredible, wouldn't it be incredible though? As much as I hate the Arsenal, I've still got Arsenal fans, and I'll bring Arsenal fans on here. It it is what it is, but it would be incredible for imagine that skin on Arteta's wall to say he's won the Premier League when this time last year. I've seen a great one with who's the main United kind of guy on Twitter. He's Goldridge, not Goldridge.
Mark Goldridge,
Goldridge
yeah, the
and
United
Terry
fan,
and
yeah,
Terry Flowers as well. Actually,
Terry off the football terrace, yeah.
Terry got into it today with Piers Morgan.
Oh,
Piers
okay.
Morgan was like, "Oh, in a world where we're the best, Thomas Partey, we've a better manager, we've better team, blah blah blah." And Terry turned around and goes, "I've actually been supporting Arteta longer than you have.
Yeah,
You wanted his head last year, like,
yeah,
and that's the thing. So imagine Arteta was to get now. I think Arteta is a pompous prick. I think the likes of Richard Keys and all is right to call him out. I think he's an absolute wanker. But he's made of the same mold as Pep. He's a little whiny bitch. You know what I mean? They just do it in a different way. It's the likes of Klopp and all that get the heat from the media because he says certain things in a certain way. But you get these little Barcelona, you know, guys, and their way of moaning seems to be acceptable to the media.
yeah. I don't know. I looked at the Amazon documentary and stuff like that, and I find, as much as it kills me that Liverpool isn't performing and up there challenging and stuff like that and all, there's definitely something kind of endearing about Arteta through that
Nah,
documentary and stuff. I definitely,
maybe.
well, that's just
Oh
me.
no, there is
But then,
one.
having said that,
There is one.
I've kind of down through the years, I've kind of always kind of liked Arsenal as a club and the way they went about their business and through the Wenger era and stuff like that. So I've always kind of I've always had a kind of a huge respect for Arsenal Football Club. And I know that hurts you. I know being a Chelsea fan, stuff like that. But it's just, I've often said it on the podcast. I have to say, probably if I didn't follow Liverpool, I would probably have followed Arsenal. And I know that's terrible at times to say, but that is that's the end of the podcast. Then, is it? But I just have to tell the truth. I've always kind of, I've liked at times the brand of football they played. I know they've gone through like a decade or more of transition and all this kind of stuff, and the Wenger era didn't finish the way I would have expected it to, and then things work out. And you have to kind of respect Arteta as well with the amount of heat and stuff he's taken.
Well,
and
I
he's
do,
still there, and he's still stuck to it and stuff like that. And
I
all,
do respect that.
and
I do
his
respect
man
that.
management. I mean, you think about it, the guy that you're kind of up in arms about at Chelsea now is the guy that he showed the door to. So you have to show respect for that as well. At a time where people were calling for his head because he sent Aubameyang out the door because he could see the issues. You know what I mean? So he has to get a huge amount of credit for that. And he's brought in some decent players, and he's revitalised some other players there as well that a lot of the fan base might have thought should have been out the door. Granit Xhaka is a revelation this season. He's been absolutely exceptional. There's a guy whose head they all wanted on a stake when he threw off the captain's armband and gave the fans the fingers or whatever it was and all that kind of stuff and all. But now look at him now. He's one of the top midfielders in the Premier League now and stuff like that. Martin Odegaard, a guy that they didn't believe in from Real Madrid and stuff like that. I've been big up on Martin Odegaard now for a long, long time. I told them to have patience with him. And now look, I'm another top midfielder in there now. So there's a lot of really good things happening at Arsenal. And I wouldn't be surprised this year if they ran out champions. But more kind of, I don't want to disrespect Leicester by saying in a Leicester way because it's 38 games and you have to win the league.
Yeah, it'd be an odd season.
Yeah,
and in fairness, if they win it fair and square, they win it fair and square. They have been.
Yeah.
Look, banter aside, like they've been impressive. It's just I don't think anyone's got in on them yet. Really got in on them. You know what I mean? And I fancy United. Yeah, I fancy United to get in on them this week and really kind of give them a. If they can do what they've done with City and go back, like, I mean, if I was Ten Hag, I'd be showing them the rivalry with Ferguson and Wenger and saying, right, this is what it's about. And vice versa, also with Arsenal. But unfortunately, they think London is red. It's not. One Premier League isn't going to change the fact that they're still, on par with Bournemouth over the last 10 years.
It's red. It's red at the moment. It's red at the moment.
Yeah. But Bournemouth have done as much as they have over the last 10 years.
One swallow doesn't make a summer.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? But definitely Arteta does like to. He likes to moan a little bit, which I get. That's fine. We all do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, I can't talk about managers moaning. Jurgen Klopp.
I can definitely talk about managers not moaning at the moment because at the moment I want to see Potter moan.
Yeah.
But look, I think that's a perfect way to leave it. Now, look, I'm looking forward to it. 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. Me and you, no doubt, will be
back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. To say
we'll be back and forth.
May the best.
Hopefully, they have a strong referee lined up for it as well. I hope it's not, silly refereeing.
Let the game flow. Let the game flow.
I think they will as well. The bit of physicality is back as well, so that's going to help the game as well.
And I mean, like if I'm Graham Potter, I'm literally telling Havertz to run offside on purpose and just block the defenders. And then just let Mason Mount creep in behind and just score a goal. It's real simple.
You're like me, you're struggling to get over. You're still struggling to get over that goal. Yeah, it's madness, isn't it? It's madness.
How would I not be struggling to get over that goal? It's like I saw a graphic where Rashford was taken out of the actual picture, and it's an easy clearance for the defender, right? It's an easy because it's like, well, there's a ball. I'm just going to kick it out, or I'm going to pass it over to.
I just put a tweet out. I put a tweet out after that goal, and I just said Howard Webb is back.
Yeah, I saw that. I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah. What else can I say? What else can I say? It's just there's so many rules out there at the moment that are so loose, aren't they?
But they change on a weekly basis depending on what team is playing. I mean, the fact
and you could be guaranteed this week if that happens in a game, that one wouldn't be given. It'd be called offside to fix up. This is what happens.
Of course, and then but it's like, oh well, it evens itself out. Or, well, not really when you've got 12 and 13 men on your team as well as the 11 on the pitch. Like it kind of becomes a little bit uneven when you've got technology on your side. Just saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, but look, we're not going to get into that because that's a conversation for a different day. But
Absolutely.
look, thank you once again, Noel.
Yeah,
From
no
me,
problem.
Ian Kelly, make sure once again you go and check out the Shankly sessions. It's if you're a football
Okay.
fan, it's well worth looking at. It's honest opinion. It's Noel by himself, raw. Um, Whether it be emotions of a high magnitude or a low magnitude, he's there every week, every game.
You're
Uh,
guaranteed some sort of emotion, one way or another.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then of course we've got the Monday mashup and the Thursday tier talk as well, which is absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. I appear on it sometimes.
Mm.
It's probably long overdue an appearance, so probably pop up at some point in the future. We'll definitely have a little show, probably depending on the outcome of this game.
Yeah, I'll be on. I'll be on for it. I'll be doing a match reaction on Saturday after the
Yeah.
game either way, and player ratings, all the usual stuff anyway. So that'll be there. And
So maybe we might even do a
yeah,
joint one on Saturday, depending on where I am. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that I'm going to be
absolutely.
here. So, but look, until
Yeah.
next time, for me, Ian Kelly, for the Chelsea Roar, for Niall, we are over and out. And come on, the Chelsea.